Hi, my name is Mark Moore and I run the leadership program for ICML, and what I wanted to do is quickly give you an overview of the program. The program is primarily designed to help leaders get the best out of the staff, to help the staff fulfill their potential. And there's a couple of things we look at, and throughout the course what we're trying to do is we're trying to give participants practical formulas to help them have certain conversations. It's very difficult to give someone feedback, but if we give you a nice little formula, it's a lot easier. So some of the things we cover how to set clear expectations, and in particular we talk about behaviours forming a part of performance, and making sure that we communicate to staff what our values are and what they mean. And so setting expectations, putting coaching plans in place to help staff to meet expectations. And then there's 4 conversations typically you have to have, and we give formulas to help you have these conversations. The first conversation is having set clear expectations, is being able to then deal with a person who doesn't meet those expectations. You know, it's non-compliance with a clear expectation, and we'll give you a certain formula to address that. The second one is when a person doesn't meet those expectations, but the expectation perhaps wasn't that clear, because it's hard to be very clear on just about on everything. So perhaps there's a behaviour that you didn't talk about and they're exhibiting, and you have to give them some feedback on that. And once again, we give you a formula. The third one is dealing with a person who was performing and their performance has dropped. And typically we call this informal counselling. And once again, we give you a little formula you can follow. The last conversation is one which many people forget to have, and that is with the high performers. And they are often forgotten because they're performing, and then of course they walk in and resign, and we say, well, let's have a discussion, and they say, well, you had 2 or 3 years to talk about my performance, and you haven't. So we strongly recommend you don't forget these people. And so what we talk about is what sort of conversation do you have with high performers. And typically, these are candidates for more responsibility, and so we're looking for growth and development. And so, once again, that's a different conversation. Now, we don't have time, obviously, in this short video to go through all those formulas, but I do want to give you one formula, and that's the formula, the counselling formula. So the person who was performing, now they're no longer performing. How do you have that conversation? Now, bear in mind, of course, that if you have regular one-on-ones with people, with your staff, these conversations are easy to have. And typically, in a one-on-one, what we're doing is we're talking about what works and what doesn't work. So it shouldn't seem awkward. The problem we have is when people walk into a boss's office and the boss closes the door, and everyone says, well, what have they done wrong? And that shouldn't look unusual. When a person is in the office with their boss and the door is closed and people say, what's happening? Staff should be saying, well, probably having a one-on-one, probably being told what a good job they're doing. It shouldn't look unusual. So lesson number 1 is make sure you have regular one-on-ones. These conversations become a lot easier. Now, let's assume that you are speaking to someone. Let me give you an example of a formula that we might cover. You're speaking to someone who was performing, now they're no longer performing, okay? You're having a one-on-one with them, you talk about what's working, and then you talk about, okay, what's not working. Now, the formula we have, number 1 is, firstly, the way you're leading to this discussion is to ask them, is everything okay? Now, typically I'll find that people will be flippant and say, yeah, no, everything's fine. So step number 1, ask them, is everything's okay? Step number 2 is if they say everything's fine, then contrast past performance to present performance. And you'd say something like, look, the reason I ask is because you've been here for 3 years, you've always been a top performer, your punctuality has been great, your performance has been fabulous. Lately, what I've noticed is that you're coming in late, which is not like you. Monday and Tuesday you're late, your reports are coming in late, and most concerning is that your sick leave has gone up, and it's never been high at all. Would you agree that this isn't the usual bill that Sally I've been seeing the last 3 years? So what you want them to hear is you want them to hear not that you're concerned about the performance, you're concerned about them as people, and that's what compassionate organizations do. Bear in mind, of course, is if you find out what the issue is, the performance problem will go away. So step number 1 is asking them okay. Step number 2, contrasting past performance to present performance. Very important. Make sure you keep quiet between these steps. Silence is a tool. And then, of course, if they say yes, well, there's an issue, step number 3 would be, well, help me understand what's causing this. Once again, silence. And finally, step number 4 is let's put a plan in place and address it. Now there are many obstacles which we can't cover in the short video. For example, if a person doesn't feel comfortable about opening up, you might be the problem. What do you do? Now in our course what we'd do is we would cover those obstacles and give you strategies and techniques. But I hope you can see that the formulas we give you are very practical, they're very easy to use and apply, and of course they're very flexible. You know, they're not written in stone. You can actually change them and fine-tune them to suit your style and what works for you. So that's the sort of thing we do. We have a lot of fun in the course. Obviously it's online now as well. A lot of sharing of ideas, some of the best ideas in people's heads, so we like to get them out. And we find that people typically walk out from these courses and they generally have at least 2 or 3 new tools they can use. And so what we're inviting you to do is join us on these courses and have share your ideas, and we are absolutely certain that you'll walk away with some good tools. So hopefully we'll see you shortly in one of our courses. Thanks. Bye.